Thanks to all of you for joining us today for this very important topic. We know that this is commanding the national news right now, and it's a scary time. Whether you're an organization that serves folks in vulnerable communities, or you're someone yourself who find yourself in a situation that you're concerned, we certainly want to help wherever we can. And to do that today, we've got one of the leading experts in international and immigration law here with us, Pat Espinosa. I'm going to read you a little bit of his bio. He's an incredibly impressive person, and we're excited he's here today. Pat was born in Germany to Colombian parents, has lived across the U.S. and internationally, gaining diverse experiences that shape his work today. An accomplished attorney with a JD MBA from the University of Miami, Pat focused on contract law, business formation, and management to begin his career. He moved to Ohio 10 years ago and immediately saw the need to help underrepresented immigrants in Northeast Ohio. In 2021, he launched his own firm and still the only Hispanic branded and fully bilingual law firm in Ohio. Pat and his firm specialize in immigration law, leveraging his bilingual abilities and immigrant background to represent clients all over the country. Pat's the president of the Ohio Hispanic Bar Association, serves on the boards for Greater Cleveland, the CMBA here. We love having him. Greater Cleveland Partnership, the Northern Ohio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Border Light Festival of International and Fringe Theater. He lives in Mentor with his wife, Candace, and his kids, Valentina and Santiago. And Pat's a super nice guy. We are so thrilled that he was able to jump on and help us with this project today. For those of you on the line, if you have questions that pop up during the session today, we realize that because of the sensitive nature of this topic, anonymity is very important. We want to try to preserve that. We're not taking a list. We're not taking attendance. We're not doing anything to compromise anybody who's online. We are recording the session with the hopes that we'll be able to share it with anybody who could not make it today. But if you do have questions during the session, down in the bottom, you'll see chat, and you'll have the option to send a chat to everybody or just to host and panelist. We would appreciate it if you just send it to host and panelists. That'll come to me, that'll come to Pat, and it'll come to one or two other people on our team. We'll help sort. I'll ask Pat any questions that come through the chat out loud as we move forward, and then we'll be able to get those questions answered for the session. I know Pat has probably 40 to 45 minutes of content planned, but we have plenty of time for questions, and we'll stay here until every one of those questions is answered. So with that, please, like I said, use the chat, chime in if there's anything we can help with, and otherwise, Mr. Espinosa, it is all yours. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for that kind introduction, Chris, and thank you for everybody being here. This is a topic that's really important to many people in this country, whether that number of undocumented immigrants is 10 million or 20 million. Their extended family is certainly a lot more. So this is at the front of everybody's sleepless nights and worries and just consuming their life right now. We didn't have a way to see if anybody spoke Spanish or would rather hear this presentation in Spanish. If that is an issue, please let us know. I'm more than willing to review certain of these slides in Spanish if someone's having a difficulty understanding. I'll also stop for a short period in between slides. Please jump in with questions. I don't want you to forget those questions, and a lot of times those questions have something to do with the topic that I'm covering. So I guess without further ado, I will jump right in. So we're going to be going over enforcement policies, your rights, immigration detention policies, and preparedness. So obviously, there's been expanded enforcement since this administration took power a year ago. That's been compounded with the bill that was passed this summer. And unfortunately, we're going to start seeing a lot of expanded activities here in the first and second quarters of this year. So executive orders last year gave most federal law enforcement agencies authorization to conduct immigration stops. That includes Customs and Border Protection, the FBI, ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshals. The administration is using the entire federal government to police immigrants. There are some counties, including where I live in Lake County, they have what are called 287G agreements. These agreements have three main points and three main tiers. These agreements allow ICE to give training to the local sheriffs and will empower sheriffs to stop people if they have immigration questions. So far, we haven't heard that any jurisdiction or any sheriff's office has started to implement this. We have heard that they are trying to implement it, but as of now, we haven't seen it. But we can expect it to at some point in the next couple of years go forward, and this is really going to affect our communities that are have larger Hispanic percentage of the community. Unfortunately, last year also we were under, which I still can't believe I'm saying this. There's legal racial profiling under the Supreme Court case Vasquez Perdomo. It lets immigration enforcement use not only race but language and location, such as people that are car washes, restaurants, Home Depots. They use these as indicators to stop and ask individuals about their immigration status. Of course, there are laws in effect that do limit these agents' powers, but as you have seen as well, there's been a ton of violations of due process. So even though what I'm presenting and what rights you may have, keep in mind that with this administration, due process is not what it used to be. Additionally, with the expanded budget for immigration enforcement, what we're starting to see is that the bar of entry into becoming an immigration official is very low. They're trying to get as many people on board as quickly as possible, and it seems that they're bypassing traditional screening for law enforcement officials. So unfortunately, we're probably going to see more violations of due right in the coming months than less, as more and more untrained people start joining the ranks. It's going to be kind of like the wild, wild west. So, I don't want to be pessimistic, but I want to be realistic of what we should expect. So, current enforcement policies, most crimes will land you on the radar. Very few people are slipping through the cracks right now. The administration has said that they are targeting undocumented immigrants with criminal records. Here in Lake County, they're pretty strict. Even if you don't have a driver's license, a no operator's license, they're calling ICE pretty quick, and that will get you detained. Cuyahoga County, they're not asking as much and they're not telling as much. So fortunately, for some of these lower level infractions, we're seeing people not locked up due to a jaywalking violation. So most of the detentions that are happening right now are collateral detentions. We'll see an individual raid, say at a restaurant or a house. They will be searching for one person in general. They'll have a warrant for one person, and that person will generally have other undocumented people around them. Those people end up getting rounded up as well. So when ICE or Customs and Border Protection are going in for enforcement, while they're only looking for one person, generally they're walking away with 3 or 4. So lately we've been seeing that, although in the national media we're seeing these ICE activities in Minnesota and Los Angeles, those are national efforts. There's a lot of local ICE agents from different field offices that are going to those big raids. Here in Northern Ohio, we're seeing more ICE as being more of a logistical arm for deportations, and we're seeing Customs and Border Protection doing most of the street enforcement actions. That probably is going to stay the same the next couple months. I don't see Ohio being targeted with a national enforcement. So, fortunately, I don't think what we're seeing in Minnesota is going to happen anywhere here in Ohio. Probably 90% of where these encounters happen are when people are leaving their house to go to work and leaving their work to go to the house. Generally, immigration officials they'll investigate, they'll see where someone lives, they'll verify that that's the person they're after, and generally they'll get them right as they're walking to their car. So not only do you need to know your rights, you should know when they're going to, most likely get you. You got to stay vigilant. You got to look out for anything out of the ordinary. And consensual encounters for right now, that is where a lot of these detentions are happening for immigrants that do not have criminal records. For immigrants that have criminal records, they're pretty easy to find, especially the more serious the crime, the faster ICE gets involved. However, they're trained to do what are called consensual encounters. They will approach someone that maybe look, Hispanic, from a different country, and they'll ask their immigration status. ICE agents are usually in plain clothes. They wear cargo pants. They wear flannel shirts and trucker hats. Is a lot of federal agents dress like that. What you see on the news in Minnesota and Los Angeles, you don't see it too often here in Ohio. That's not something our communities have seen or have to worry about just yet. But what you do have to pay attention to is their plain clothes. So, to someone that doesn't know what to look for, you wouldn't pick them out of a lineup right away. So these immigration officials will come up to someone they suspect may be undocumented, and most of the time they'll ask someone what their immigration status is, and most of the time that person will say, "I don't have status." As soon as that individual says that, it gives immigration official the right to detain them. The big takeaway here is usually police, they won't ask what your immigration status is in most of the jurisdictions around here. And usually the police they're easily identifiable. You get pulled over, or they'll be wearing a police officer's uniform. You do not need to answer an immigration official. You can keep your mouth shut and not say anything. And that's what you should do. If anybody asks your immigration status, you keep your mouth shut. If you open your mouth, that's when you're probably going to give too much information, and they're going to detain you. So that is not one of their rights currently. You don't have to answer them, and you can just walk away. Their training is to leave those people alone. But the second you say something that would make them ask more questions or suspect that you don't have you're not in status, that's when you get into trouble. So remember, you're not required to answer. You do not have to answer your immigration status if someone asks you. So warrants. Up until yesterday, there was generally two types, or one type of warrant you had to worry about and one you didn't have to worry about. The two types of warrants are a federal warrant. Those are signed by a federal judge. The warrant will say United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio, if you see it. Generally, these warrants, there's going to be a probable cause affidavit, usually done by a federal agent, FBI, DEA, ICE, Customs and Border Protection. They'll have evidence. It'll go in front of a judge, and the judge will sign this warrant. There's little that anyone can do to counter a federal warrant. They're pretty much as ironclad as you get. They're not too common that we're seeing here. Generally, they would be for, violent crimes or other someone that's a danger to the public. Now, ICE agents have administrative warrants. So do Customs and Border Protection. It'll generally say Department of Homeland Security at the top of it. And up until yesterday, it did not allow agents to enter into homes. It didn't allow agents to enter private spaces at work. They weren't signed by a judge. And generally our guidance was to, if you were in a private space, if you are in your home, if you're in a private space at work, you ask the agent to show you the warrant. They hold it up to the window. If it says Department of Homeland Security at the top or administrative warrant at the top, you don't have to pay attention. However, that changed as of yesterday, and we'll probably see this in the news in the next couple of days and weeks. There'll probably be a fight at the Supreme Court. But there was a recent leak yesterday. There was an ICE memo that instructs officers to enforce these warrants as if they carry the same weight as a federal warrant. So this is the guidance from government lawyers instructing ICE agents on what powers they have. Obviously, that's against due process. We're going to probably see this shake out pretty soon, the next couple of days, week. This is a brand new development. I don't have much more information on it right now, but it's something that we definitely have to pay attention to. Any questions so far?
Yeah, Pat, there's a couple that have popped up, and I wanted to um, let's start with this one back to the very first thing you were talking about. For clarity, they cannot detain you for declining to answer questions about your citizenship.
Correct. They're training. They've been instructed that if they ask questions about your immigration status and you don't answer, they can't detain you. Obviously, there's reports of officers violating due process, violating someone's rights, and detaining someone anyways. This does happen. They're not supposed to do it, but generally, yes. If you don't answer, they generally have to let you go.
Gotcha. Another one here is ICE still grabbing people out of immigration court?
Last I heard, yes, but not as much as we saw back in the fall. I've been to several hearings over the last couple of weeks, and I hadn't seen any ICE agents there. September, October, November, they were there pretty much every day. I'll get to more of that when I discuss some of the immigration court policies later on. But haven't seen them there in the last couple of weeks. I know the big issue with our court here in Cleveland in general is having ICE in the federal courthouse causes some issues for the actual federal courts, the United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio. While the federal court doesn't own the building, the GSA, the General Services Administration, owns the building. These agents are allowed to go up to the 13th and 14th floor where the immigration courts are at. However, what it's doing is it could scare a witness away. It could scare a victim away for someone that has a victim's rights in a federal criminal court proceeding. So we're seeing that ICE's presence at the immigration court, even though it's not on the same floor, may be affecting the rights of victims in different cases. Just because immigrants hear that there's ICE officers at the immigration court, they wouldn't want to enter the building. So it's different in different immigration courts because a lot of immigration courts aren't in a federal building. But here in Cleveland, that's unfortunately one of the things we're dealing with. So hopefully we don't see that anymore. But latest I've heard, they are there, just not as much as they were back in the fall.
Gotcha. There's a few more, but I know they're on topics that you have coming up, so I'll hold on to them for now.
Okay. So you're right. I wish we had more rights. This administration's really, pushing the envelope of what they can legally do. It's going to be a fight for the next 3 years, but hopefully these little tips will keep you at least in the know. So first, you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to discuss your status, and please don't, because they do, similar to a criminal proceeding, they can take anything that you say and use it against you. Refuse a consent for searches. If you're in public, of your belongings, if you get pulled over by ICE agents, which hasn't happened here in Cleveland. There hasn't been any immigration checkpoints. Other jurisdictions closer to Washington, D.C., I've heard in Delaware, Virginia, there are actual, similar to DUI checkpoints, there's immigration checkpoints. So in our jurisdiction, we don't have to worry about that yet. There's been no reports of that. But generally, if they stop you and they don't have a warrant, refuse the consent to search anywhere, because they'll try to find anything, paycheck stubs, if you have something in a folder to prove that maybe you're working without authorization. So refuse consent. Ask to speak to a lawyer before signing anything. I know this is difficult for a lot of the non-English speakers because they'll give the forms in English, and obviously they can't understand them, but please do not sign anything. The red cards, the know your rights cards. Now, a lot of people advocate for having these cards on you. I caution people to have these cards, just because if there's a raid and there's a lot of people around, and someone pulls out a red card, I feel like it might make you a target to an immigration official that may not care about due process. So I know a lot of people say carry them. I personally tell my clients be very cautious. It kind of puts you on the map. It singles you out. I know it may make people feel a little safer. Um, so if it makes you, if it gives you a sense of security and that makes your mental health, makes it a little bit more calm, then go ahead. But in practice, they don't really work. The officers are going to look at it and they'll probably just throw it away, and it actually might put you on the radar. So I know a lot of people, a lot of resources say have them, but I'd say be careful about pulling them out right away. Um, so if ICE knocks at your home, and I'm going to explain this as if I didn't just say that the policies were changing as of yesterday. I guess we'll have to wait for those to roll out. Not to scare anybody, but I just wanted to give you the latest information that I had. Don't open the door. If you open the door, they're going to come in. Generally, opening the door, they'll take that as consent to come in. So keep the door locked. Do not open it. Speak through the window. The main thing is ask to see the warrant. Put it to the window of the door. Put it to a window of the house. If they can slide it through a mail chute or under the door. What you're looking for is U.S. District Court at the top. If it says that, they're probably going to come in anyways. If it's administrative warrants, to stay in your house. Wait till they go away. If you have to leave, you're not obligated to open the door for them. Say if you can, I don't consent to entry. Ask for a lawyer and record on your cell phone. There's nothing illegal about recording law enforcement actions. If you can get names, badge numbers, a record of what happened, it could help you if your rights are violated. If you're stopped in public, I'll keep going back to this one. Stay calm and either just walk away or ask if you're free to go. Generally, do not answer. You don't have to answer. Generally, police won't approach you. It'll be an immigration official. Stay silent. If you do speak, don't lie. Don't show false documents. If you have the reason why you don't lie or show false documents or say that you have a green card or if you're a U.S. citizen, it could really affect any future relief you have. I have a ton of clients that may be undocumented right in this moment. However, through family or several other different forms of relief, they could have their residency within a couple years. So you don't want to jeopardize saying something false, because if you say something false or say you're a citizen, those potential avenues of relief will go away. For the advocates, I'd say, record, document everything from a safe distance. Don't get involved. We don't want to see what's happening in Minnesota. Traffic stops, checkpoints. I tell all my clients, don't take chances. Don't drive without a license. If you can get a ride, if you can take public transportation, if you can get an Uber, yes, it's more expensive in some cases, but it'll keep you safe. And that's the first thing I tell clients: don't take the chance. Especially, there's certain jurisdictions. For example, in Menor, they're going to ask if you don't have a license, they're going to call ICE. If you're in Painesville, if you're pulled over by the sheriff and you don't have a license, they're going to call ICE. The police probably won't. It's going to go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but don't take the chances. And just regular traffic stops, obey what you've been taught. Be nice. Show them your hands. Show insurance. Don't answer questions about your immigration status. I get it. If it's a police, it's hard to not consent to a search, depending on where they pulled you over. And remember, don't don't carry any fake IDs or claim U.S. citizenship because it could affect your rights in the future. At work, is where most of the collateral detentions happen. Stay calm, don't run. Running puts you on the radar. The agents might run after you because it'll give them an indication that you're undocumented. Again, you don't have to speak. Say as little as possible. Remain silent. Ask for a lawyer if they're asking you questions. Don't sign any documents. There's some agents that have been sneaky. They'll try to have immigrants sign their deportation orders to get them out quicker. If you hear a raid happening, go to a private area if you can, an employees only area. Generally, the ICE officers will need a warrant to get into the private areas. Have your managers respond as quickly as possible, and make sure that the employer and the employees have a plan of action in case ICE agents come around for questioning or a raid. There are several organizations and employers that I know that have certain keywords. It can be, over the loudspeaker, there's an elephant at the front door, or some code word which will let employees that may be undocumented seek a safe space. So if you're in an organization or an employer where this might be an issue, bring it up with someone you feel safe with. I realize that a lot of employers may not ask immigration questions, and it could bring up an issue if you try to bring it up to an employer. But ask someone that you trust in your organization to see if that's possible. Schools, hospitals, faith spaces, and courts, except for immigration court here in Cleveland. Fortunately, we haven't seen any raids at schools, hospitals, or churches. That doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, but we haven't seen it. Generally, yes, if there's an emergency, you have to seek medical care. You'll have to make the decision whether it's life-threatening issue to take the chance. Unfortunately, I do have a client that she hadn't driven for 5 years. She got COVID a couple months ago. It got so bad she needed to go to the hospital. On her way to the hospital, she got in a fender bender, and the police found out she didn't have a driver's license and called ICE, and she was detained. So, yes, unfortunately, that can happen. Use your judgment, but generally, only do it if it's an emergency. Ask someone to drive you if they can. Again, Ubers, rides are better. The courthouse, like I said before, that's the really contentious subject. Obviously, people don't want to go because they think they're going to get detained. So it's depressing. It's infuriating because these immigrants are doing the right thing. They're going to they're using their due process to go through the asylum or whatever form of relief they have, and they're getting detained by doing the right thing. If they don't show up, it's an automatic removal order, deportation order. So it's I wish it wasn't that way, but generally coordinate with an attorney, tell the attorney your situation. A lot of the judges here in Cleveland and across the country, you can ask to do the hearings via Zoom. That's something that's very prevalent now. And just because you have a court date doesn't mean that ICE is going to be there. Generally, they won't detain someone who is represented by an attorney, although there have been exceptions. But you don't want to miss your court date because you'll automatically get an order of deportation, and it'll be very hard to reopen it. Any questions before I go into what actually happens after detention?
Yeah, Pat. So one that came up specifically around being in your car. Can you clarify if the individual has to obey traffic orders or other commands from ICE if they're in their car, or if you're on foot and filming them nearby? I guess what authority do ICE officers have to give you non-immigration related law enforcement type instructions?
Not too much, and we haven't seen any indications that they're actually doing that. What they're doing is they're at checkpoints. They're just asking immigration status. I don't think that regular policing and traffic is, a right that federal agents have. That's a specific state right under the Constitution. So we haven't heard of them trying to actually do traffic policing. And honestly, I don't think they will. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, so I think specifically to the Renee Good situation in Minneapolis, it's if ICE ask you to move your car, do you have to move your car? If they tell you to turn around and go back the other way, do you have to turn around and go back the other way?
That's a tough question. I think everybody's asking that same question right now, and we don't. You're going to have a hundred different answers from 100 different people.
I share your skepticism at the availability of an easy answer for that, because it's going to be so fact dependent on what happened. But I mean, generally speaking, although this is not a great constitutional law answer, I had a law professor once tell me that if somebody with a gun is asking you to do something, it's better to listen than not to listen. But again, there's a constitutional answer and there's a practical answer that I think everybody's going to have to come up with on their own.
Right. I think that's a good way to put it. Just try to be safe is what I would say. Okay. If you're detained by ICE, unfortunately, right now there's not too many options. The cases that will win are very few and far in between. But it's not obviously the end of the world. There's still some rights, and depending on family you have here or other situations, there could be any number of possible reliefs or entrance into the country after a amount of time outside the country. Stay calm. Don't offer information. Say you want to speak to a lawyer. In practice, the ICE agents here, they will always give people a phone call. They'll always let them call lawyers. Generally, when they're detained, they're taken for registration at the ICE headquarters here in Brooklyn Heights. Usually that's a 5 to 8 hour ordeal. Sit around, they'll take fingerprints, biometrics, put everything in the system. They still use government computers, which are awful, so it takes them time too. Either during the ride to the processing center or at the center, they will give them phone calls. So tell people, memorize phone numbers, carry a list of contacts on you with those numbers. If you have an attorney, have your attorney's number or the office number, just so that you're not sitting around for a couple days before someone knows where you're at. If family or your attorney know that you've been detained, there's things that we can start and process to get the process moving, rather than sitting in detention for a couple weeks unnecessarily while people try to find you. Don't sign any documents. They could put a voluntary departure or stipulated removal in front of you, and you sign it, and there's nothing you can do. Talk to your lawyer. For cases where you truly are afraid to go back to your country, say so clearly. I am afraid to go back to my country. That phrase will immediately trigger a credible fear interview. Someone from the United States Citizenship Immigration Service, USCIS, will be contacted, and they will come and they will give you a credible fear interview to determine whether you can claim asylum in certain cases. So always say, if you don't already have a case in immigration court or USCIS, if you fear return to your country, say so. Say it clearly. Make sure that they understand you. And if there's any issues, contact your consulate. There will be individual rights and resources that the consulate can give you. So the current detention policy, which obviously changed under this new administration, the rules changed under every different president. Unfortunately, it's frustrating because strategies change. Right now, it's depressing because most people do not have eligibility for an immigration bond. Um, Currently, the immigration judges have been instructed that they do not have jurisdiction to hear bond hearings for any undocumented immigrants. There were two decisions that came out of the Board of Immigration Appeals, matter of Lee and matter of Yadro Hurtado, basically stating that if an immigrant came into this country, if their first contact was with an agent of the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Homeland Security has sole jurisdiction to determine whether they're released on bond or another method such as humanitarian parole. So even if we file for a bond hearing, the judges are simply stating we do not have jurisdiction. That means that people that are detained have to fight their case from the inside, which makes it extremely more difficult. There is a class action case out of California called Maldonado that is currently it's going back and forth with Matterculey and Hurtado. It was certified as a class, but there's been no final judgment in that case. It's still ongoing. So probably in the next couple of weeks and months, we'll see decisions from that court affect immigration bonds in immigration court. Immigrants that came to the U.S. on a visa still have eligibility. And the difficulty with trying cases from the inside are they're faster. Usually cases are built up over months and years to collect evidence. Generally, the judges are instructed to finish these cases in 2 months. We've been seeing them take a little longer, 4 or 5 months. And the only remedy right now is to file a writ of habeas corpus in federal court. Those are having some successes in several jurisdictions. The problem is sometimes they're taking too long. Sometimes you can get in front of a district judge within a month or two. Sometimes they're taking 4 or 5 months, and by that time, the case in immigration court is over. Each individual will know their own case. If you know that you don't have a case, and I tell clients this all the time, like, listen, we're not going to win. There's no reason for you to stay detained for 5 months just to be deported anyways. There are other alternatives such as voluntary departure, which might make it easier to enter the country. But be very, very wary of getting advice. There's a lot of great lawyers out there. There's a lot of not so great lawyers that may want to take advantage. Please go shop around, get different second or third opinions. I don't take cases here for bond or for an asylum where there's no way to win. I'm not going to take someone's money to do that. There are other attorneys will. So if someone guarantees that they're going to win your case, be very wary, get second opinion so that you're not, spending a nest egg when you could use that money for something else. Expedited removal. Really quickly, I know I'm running out of little time, and I'll leave some time for questions. By executive order, expedited removal has resumed. This allows immigration authorities, ICE, generally to deport immigrants without a hearing before an immigration judge. This applies to immigrants that entered undocumented or paroled within the last 2 years. It is, in my opinion, a violation of due process, but in reality, if you've been here less than 2 years, could be a chance where they'll have you removed of the country within a week or two without getting in front of a judge. So if you fall into that bracket, please be cognizant of what could happen. As of this fall, Department of Homeland Security attorneys, which are the attorneys in immigration court against immigrants, have been using asylum cooperative agreements to pre-terminate cases. So what is an asylum cooperative agreement? These are agreements that the U.S. has made with other countries, Ecuador, Honduras, Uganda, those countries have agreed to take our asylum seekers. So what happens in a nutshell is Department of Homeland Security will file a motion to pre-termit. Pre-termit means that asylum application will be canceled or dismissed before a hearing in front of a judge. Um, if they're pre-terminated, the immigrant gets automatic deportation order to one of these third countries. They're widespread. They're being filed in almost every single case we're seeing now for anybody who's entered the country after November 19th, 2019. There have been some successes. We have attorneys filing motions to show cause as to specifics of what are in these motions. DHS attorneys are saying it's safe for these people to go to different countries. Obviously, we argue the other way around. We make them prove it. Some jurisdictions are working, some it's not. Humanitarian parole and TPS. Anybody that was granted humanitarian parole, that's now ended. Most of the TPS protections have ended and will, most of them will end this year by 2026. Biggest thing, have a family preparedness plan. This will kind of give you a game plan of what to do if something happens. Know your situation and possible relief. Go talk to a lawyer. It could be that you can apply for a green card immediately. It could be you have other methods of relief. Please know your situation. Talk to an immigration attorney. They can pull your entire immigration record, your history. You can see, don't live in fear when you could possibly have some form of relief. Choose someone, an emergency contact, generally someone who is in status, green card or citizen, to manage if someone is detained. Have your powers of attorney ready to go. I have a client who was unfortunately detained due to a domestic violence issue. She was a single mother, and her child is with the grandmother, hasn't gotten vaccines because there's no power of attorney for the mother to authorize the vaccines. It's a new client we got yesterday, so obviously we're doing that. But make sure you have these powers of attorneys ready to go in case you get detained. Generally, they're not supposed to detain single mothers or any single parents. The ICE policies are that if there are children, minor children that are U.S. citizens, they're generally letting these people go if there's not some superseding issue, such as a criminal charge, as was this case. Make a child care plan, where the kid's going to stay. It's always an issue. We had a client recently that was detained. The father was almost non-existent. So we had 2 teenage kids that were unsupervised for quite a number of days and having issues going back to school. Make sure you know where your family's going to go. If you have rent due, just make sure you talk about all these things. Create a folder with all your IDs, birth certificates, any immigration paperwork, court papers, all your contact info, lawyers, bills, powers of attorney, so that if someone in your family gets detained, all these important documents are easy to access. And remember your phone numbers. If you do get detained, keep copies on you because they will give you a phone call. And then stay informed and supported. There's a lot of different organizations out there that will help give you the latest policy updates. If you have an immigration attorney, call them, ask them. I tell my clients, hey, if you see something in the news, please call. We'll let you know exactly what it was, whether it's something you have to worry about or not. Legal aid, Catholic Charities, ACLU, the National Immigrant Law Center. There's a lot of different organizations that will help nationally and locally. And I'll skip down. I'll go to these resources. You can just Google these. They're up here right now, but they're not too hard to find online. And there's 45 minutes. I'll leave the rest open for questions.
Very good, Pat. I'm going to come back on camera here. And can you go back to that?
Oh, sorry. I think I stopped sharing. Did I stop sharing?
That's okay. You did. That's okay. It's if you could pull it back up and go to that resources slide if it's easy, and if not, that's okay. We'll share it at the end as well. So some quick hitter questions that we have here. I think so. Pat just answered: is there legal help for immigrants who cannot afford an attorney on their own? That's the resources that he's going to pull back up here that are able to help. And do you have any others that you'd like to call out?
Legal aid, Catholic Charities. There's not too many here in Cleveland. There's the international center in Akron. Um, see what they have to say. I know like there's not enough for the population, but at least they may give you point you in the right direction.
And
Um,
I think that's important to note. It's the organizations working in this space are doing a good job, I think, in the moment of crisis of helping each other and helping clients get to the right spot. So start anywhere, call us, call Pat, and we are usually able to point you at least in the right direction.
and I've been giving free consultations for the last 5 years. Most of immigration attorneys do charge for consultations, and I get that. It's their legal time. Um, However, I found that most of the people that were coming for consultations signed a contract, so it was unnecessary. And aside from that, I want people to get uh, accurate information as it pertains to immigration laws, because immigration laws change. There are so many people on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook trying to make a quick buck. Um, and I know that's a thing, but don't believe everything you see on the internet, here on TikTok. So if there is an immigration attorney that can give you a consultation on what your situation is for little cost, no cost, I would recommend you know finding out what your options are. It's better to know that you either have options or don't have options, so that you can plan correctly for the future.
I have one here about somebody detention. How can you locate somebody who is in ICE detention? Is there a roster of sorts or a way to search?
Yes, it's actually on this page right here. It's the ICE. I just typed in Google ICE locator.
ICE locator.
It gives you
For
two
some people,
options.
we're not seeing your screen, but that's okay. So if they just Google ICE locator, it'll be able to pull it up.
Yes, you'll be able to find where someone is in two different ways. With their alien identification number, which is called the A number. It is a 9-digit number. Generally, you put that 9-digit number in and their country of origin, and it will let you know where they're at. If you do not have their A number, um, you can put in their first, middle, and last name, their birth date, and their country of birth, and sometimes it'll pop up. If they miss like a middle name, it doesn't populate. But this is one of those issues where please make sure that anyone that's at risk has phone numbers on them so they can call, because they do let people call. So that's very important. There's four, just FYI, there's 4 different immigration centers that are being used right now for the bulk of people in the Cleveland Immigration Court. That is, sorry, there's 5. One in Seneca, that's out in Seneca County Safety Center, that's in Tiffin. You have Geauga County Safety Center south of Chardon. You have the Mahoning County Jail. You have the Northeast Ohio Correctional Center. Both those are in Youngstown. And then Butler County has a pretty big detention center for people Columbus and South.
And someone just kindly shared the ICE locator link right in the chat, so you should all be able to see that. I have several questions here about kids. Is there an age at which you're unlikely to be stopped? So let's say kids under 12 are unlikely to be stopped by ICE, or is it fair to assume that everybody's fair game?
No, kids are generally not detained. I'm thinking, I haven't heard of any lately. If there was a cutoff point, probably 14, when they're required to do fingerprints. But for the most part, myself and other practitioners that I know, we here, at least in Cleveland, it could be different, on the border, it could be different in other jurisdictions. Here in Ohio, we haven't heard of anybody under 18 that's been detained. So fortunately, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen or doesn't happen, but it's not happening here right now.
Are people who are detained, are the detentions bond eligible? And are there organizations that can help pay for bonds for low-income families?
So the only way they're eligible for bond is if they came here on a visa. Anybody that came in undocumented currently, they are ineligible for an immigration bond in immigration court, However, there are some successes with writs of habeas corpus in federal court. So it's not the best. Federal court procedures are, for the most part, a little bit more expensive than immigration procedures. Again, some of those same Catholic Charities, legal aid are the same organizations that can help at little or no cost.
If you are a citizen and you're asked about your immigration status, is it better to show proof of citizenship through like a passport or to remain silent and walk away?
If you're a citizen, you don't have really anything to worry about. I would say it's tough. It's situation dependent. Like myself, if someone asked me, I would just be like, yeah, I'm a citizen, go away. I would say, I'll probably just walk away. If you have a passport on you, I would say show a passport. They're not gonna bug you if you have a passport. They're not, the immigration officials they're not looking for citizens. So, there's no harm in showing a passport. There's also no harm in just walking away. So.
Okay. I have several questions here about what if ICE doesn't follow their own rules? Let me try to come up with the combined question. Is say they're not able to enter a premises, or say you tell them not to search your car and they do it anyway. What are the recourses that are available to either folks who are undocumented in here or even to U.S. citizens action taken by ICE?
So they're all civil in nature. Unfortunately, administrative remedies, such as saying, hey, it's an illegal arrest, through any of the administration's, executive departments, it's not going to go anywhere. They're not going to pay attention to you. What this is going to take, it'll take both a habeas action and a civil penalty. There are many attorneys. I know the CMBA can recommend many attorneys that can file suit for wrongful arrest, wrongful search. So generally, monetary penalties are what is going to keep people from violating the due process. Once it starts hurting the government, in penalties and jury awards, that's what gets them to stop. Right now, but I don't think we can rely on any administrative agency to help. So the recourse is going to be generally through federal court or through private civil action.
Mm-hmm. Is ICE still deporting immigrants to countries that are not their country of origin, please?
Yes, they are, unfortunately. And that's what these asylum cooperative agreements, they're trying to do that to everybody across the board. Obviously, that's not what we want. But it's the administration's, they're moving pretty fast. They're trying to get these cases done as quickly as possible. And they're trying to, not, abide by due process. But yeah, we are seeing, not in huge numbers, but they're trying to right now.
The several questions, again, I think people may have missed the beginning. Can you comment again on the new directive that came out about administrative warrants? I think just repeating what you said earlier, that it's pretty early and we're not really sure what's going to happen with that, right?
Correct. So it seems there was an ICE memo that was leaked yesterday. This memo is instructing agents to use administrative warrants as if they carry the same weight as a federal warrant. This means that their position on this is that they can enter buildings. They can search without a federal search warrant. Pay close attention to the news. Like I said, this came out yesterday, so I don't have too much more information other than just that. We're going to have to see how it rolls out. I would say, if it happened to me, I'd still say I'm going to hold administrative warrants to what they are. Administrative warrants haven't been signed by a judge, and that any action on an administrative warrant could be a violation of due process. But this is something we're going to have to just watch here in the next couple days to weeks.
The there's a great question, and this may be a good one to end on. And I apologize, we didn't get to all the questions. There were 25 some on that popped up, but the oversight of what's happening right now under the executive branch is a concern that I hear a lot from lawyers, that this process is happening completely under the executive branch. The judicial branch doesn't seem to have either the interest or the authority to weigh in on some of the decisions that are coming out. Can you comment on that, just from a separation of powers perspective? I guess how concerned are you that this is happening under one branch without involvement from the other two?
Oh, every day. I hate this part because it's the most frustrating aspect of what's going on. One, the policy is being changed haphazardly, and they're making these changes and taking action and asking questions later and letting maybe the court process roll out. So a lot of these actions that the immigration courts are taking, there is no checks and balances. So unfortunately, there's not too much we can do. There is stuff we can do, but again, it's so say a judge or a DHS attorney does something that could be considered a violation of the rules of professional conduct. Immigration judges, and I should have clarified this earlier, are not real judges. They're administrative hearing officers, and their formal title is lawyer. So they're lawyers just like I am, and their licenses, obviously, they can be investigated for violations of professional misconduct. But here's what some regulations say. First, a potential violation of professional misconduct has to be investigated by EOIR. It's the Executive Office for Immigration Review. So that's where the immigration judges are, also an administrative agency. So basically you have a judge that's Department of Justice, and you have the DHS attorney who's Department of Homeland Security. They're on the same side. They're both executive branches. So wait, we're going to complain about one before we can complain to the bar. I mean, in some cases, I'm just going straight to the bar. Not in this state, but in other states or some other issues. So pretty much that's the only ammunition we have is, hold them to the rules of professional conduct. They can't get away from that. So we're still, I don't take it lightly. I don't throw it around, frivolously, but there's some cases where there's blatant abuses of due process, then I think it's necessary that we do bring those to the bar's attention or the disciplinary office's attention.
Yeah. So, thanks, Pat, again for doing this today for us. Can you do the quick commercial here at the end? Who are the kind of folks that should get a hold of you, and what's the phone number for them to call?
Oh, sure. Again, we speak both English. Everybody on staff is fully bilingual, English and Spanish. Do free consultations to anybody. I like to get the correct information out to the community. If you're interested in a consultation, you can look us up. We're www.susabogadoslatinos.com. That's your Latino attorneys in Spanish. Our phone number is 440-776-8756.
Awesome.
So thank you everybody so much. It's been a pleasure.
That's great, and thanks again, Pat. And we will work to get this information out to the community as quickly as we can. We'll likely post a replay of the video. We also will work with Pat to see if we can get some of the information on the slides maybe up on our website, or share it in another way that you can pass that forward as well. So we'll work on that. There was a great question here at the end about, can I volunteer? I'm a law student and I want to volunteer to help. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Reach
out to us. We take a ton of, last summer, I think we had 7 or 8 interns. We do interns all the way from high school all the way up until last year in law school. So it's very immersive. We have the interns doing everything that the lawyers are doing. So always want to pass down this knowledge to anybody that's willing to join the fight.
You bet. So hit us up at the CMBA, talk to legal aid. There's lots of places right now that you can plug in and assist, not just with this work, but the other important work that allows the immigration attorneys to focus on that, while the rest of us are dealing with the rest of life that goes on around this, right? So we all are standing by to contribute however we can. Thanks to all of you for coming today. I think it was a wonderfully informative session. We had almost 100 people that were on live, and I'm sure many more will watch the recording. And we will hopefully see you all at an upcoming Know Your Rights event. Thanks again, Pat, and have
Yep.
a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Great. You too. Have a great afternoon, everybody.